Asapana social distancing. Okay.
Okay. Good morning, Honorable Minister. Good morning, members of the media, and welcome to today's media briefing by the Honorable Minister of Information, Publicity and Broadcasting Services. The subject today is the arrest of Mr. Hopewell Chin'ono and Mr. Jacob Ngari. Honorable Minister, over to you. Minister will present a statement. After that, she will take some questions, just a few questions, and then that will be it. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Pemsek, and I want to welcome all of you once again to this brief. Government would like to set the record straight on the arrest of Hopewell Chin'ono and Jacob Ngari and their subsequent appearance in court. We have noted with dismay a well-coordinated local and international misinformation and disinformation media campaign where the duo are said to have been arrested for supposedly exposing alleged corruption cases in government. For the avoidance of doubt, Hopewell Chin'ono was not abducted. He was lawfully arrested by the Zimbabwe Republic Police, and he was not arrested for exposing corruption. He was arrested for using his social media accounts to incite Zimbabweans to violently overthrow the government. Even though Hopewell Chin'ono writes about corruption, he's not unique in this regard. All the newspapers in Zimbabwe, including independent publications, have written extensively about corruption in government and private sector. None of the journalists who have written about the subject of corruption have been arrested for publishing the same. This is because the government and the President of the Republic of Zimbabwe acknowledge and appreciates the role the media plays in the investigation and exposition of corruption. The Standard and the Zimbabwe Independent papers, together with the state media, reported on the NASA scandal that resulted in the arrest of former Minister Priska Mpumira. None of the journalists from these newspapers were arrested or censored for reporting in this case. In addition, the president appointed Mr. Trevor Ngube, the proprietor of Alpha Media Holdings, AMH, which is the biggest independent newspaper stable in Zimbabwe, to his Presidential Advisory Council, PAC. Such claims are deliberately being calculated to mislead and manufacture a false narrative which brings into question His Excellency President E.D. Mnangagwa's sincerity in fighting corruption, both in government and private sector. Since coming into office as leader of the new dispensation, His Excellency President Mnangagwa has provided a favorable working environment for media practitioners to conduct their business unfettered. The Zimbabwe Independent from AMH publishes articles accusing government officials of corruption on a weekly basis without fail. But this has not attracted any arrest of the journalists concerned. The Second Republic, through Parliament, has repealed the IPA, which in the past was used against journalists, and replaced it with a raft of legislation aimed at protecting the rights of journalists to practice their profession freely and the rights of citizens to information concerning the areas of interest and concern. President Mnangagwa ordered an investigation into the drugs affair before Hopewell Chin'ono started tweeting about it. As a result of these investigations, several arrests have been made. The most prominent of those arrests was that of the former Minister of Health and Child Care, Dr. Obadiah Moyo, who was charged and relieved of his duties as Minister of Health and Child Care. It is therefore false to state that no action has been taken against the corrupt individuals fingered by Hopewell's expose. The President has consistently shown his unflinching commitment to fighting corruption by setting up a robust legal infrastructure to fight this economic scourge. He has also spearheaded the funding of the Zimbabwe Anti-Corruption Commission, SAC, as a way of capacitating it to deliver on its constitutional mandate. This has seen an unprecedented arresting and summary dismissals of those 2 cabinet ministers in a short space of time. The conviction and jailing of high-profile individuals such as former Minister Same Undenge, Douglas Tafumanei, and Simon Taranike, and many more, is also indicative of the zero tolerance to corruption policy. The arrest of these 2, that's Hopewell Chin'ono and Garivumi individuals, clearly has nothing to do with their anti-corruption stance, which finds convergence with President E.D. Mnangagwa's own position, but their ploy to violently destabilize the country and unconstitutionally seize power by any means necessary, thus putting Zimbabwean lives and property at risk. The role of foreign powers in this plot to instigate an illegal regime change in Zimbabwe is made apparent by a set of events and statements that followed the police operation. Within minutes of arrival of the police at Mr. Chin'ono's home, the US Embassy was already all over this issue, which is between a sovereign country and its citizens, by tweeting and trying to bring pressure to bear on the Zimbabwean government so it would not enforce the law of the land. Its particular interest in this one person is curious in the list. Other Western embassies, who usually take the USA's lead, joined in this irregular interference by tweeting and releasing statements which were calculated to obstruct the course of justice in a hosting country. Even after Zimbabwe's independent judiciary had issued its verdict on the duo's bail application, a senior member of the US administration issued a very derogatory and undiplomatic statement against the government of Zimbabwe, showing condescending disrespect to a sovereign country. Zimbabwe is keen to engage with all members of the community of nations, but will not surrender its sovereignty as a trade-off for this. All what Zimbabwe seeks is mutual respect and non-interference in its internal affairs. Going forward, government will not compromise on Zimbabwe's national security and expects all foreign embassies hosted here to behave with propriety as set out in the Vienna Convention. All the aforesaid is happening in the context of Zimbabwe's fight against the COVID-19 pandemic. At this moment, Zimbabwe, like the whole world, faces the threat of the pandemic. The Zimbabwe government has done reasonably and surprisingly well today, up to date. Indeed, it has confounded detractors and doommongers. Hopewell and Garivume belong to that camp of evil wishers. The begging question is why call for a violent uprising in the midst? The begging question again, and I say, why call for a violent uprising in the midst of a raging and ravaging COVID-19? The ongoing USA elections are a big Republican Party it's seen they've stopped the big Republican Party in Jacksonville. Why can't the detractors and doommongers equally copy this act if they have cancelled their meeting because of COVID-19? We would like this act to be also replicated. Western embassies should provide counsel to the regime change charges that this is not the hour to play dice with the lives of Zimbabweans. This is the season of Black Lives Matter. After the choking to death of George Floyd by a cruel white police officer in Minneapolis in USA, we have traveled and suffered from their past depredations. It's not democracy they want. After all, we paid a heavy price to attain it from the conquering colonials. They did not give up Zimbabwe on a platter. It's cruel self-enrichment from our resources that they seek. Please, why can't you give Africa a break? As Zimbabwe, we are saying we can't breathe. They are sprouting shouts. Their actions are premised on the fear that President Mnangagwa and his deep-seamed economic and financial reforms have taken root, that they are beginning to pay off in reviving the economy and rekindling hope Blood-sucking money launderers and other dirty players in our fiscal and financial players are being squeezed by the succeeding weekly auction of foreign exchange. The mobile money platforms are being husbanded into the central bank RBZ. The all-important energy sector is now full of promise from huge investments in Matabeleland North, as can be seen from the recent visit by President E.D. Mnangagwa to that region. The mortal fear of Africa by the West is the economic success of self-sustainable African nations. Zimbabwe now offers that prospect after braving through devastating sanctions by the West for 2 decades. No wonder the pandemic being engendered by the fear of a good example, a threat of a good example. President Mnangagwa and his government are fully appraised on this evil agenda and devilish machinations, who keep the course of free engagement while safeguarding the nation from a slide to chaos. I thank you sincerely.
Well, thank you, Honorable Minister. Ladies and gentlemen, there you go. Would all right, just put your hand down for a second. Allow me to breathe. We try physical distance.
Yeah, sure.
Quite social because we don't socialize as everyone socialize away from their spouses. So physical distancing. Right. 4 questions related. Publicity.
Thank you very much, Honorable Minister. You were very clear in your statement. You indicate that the arrest is primarily to do with their attack or influence. So it was a revolt. Knowing that this case is now before the court, are you not probably laying on the foot of privilege care that is only before the court? And since you have taken that liberty to devote into it, looking at the treatment received by the Minister, former Minister Padamo, and the manner in which Hopewell was arrested, how would you equate the two? Do you think there's justice in the both arrests? Yes, they've been arrested. The other one comes to court. Hands in the pocket and shining, his voice shining. Because the other one comes to court handcuffed and this house broken into, and as well as they go and seize this trade, it's a camera and other things. In your own view as the government, do you think that justice is being served? In 2 cases, one criminal come to court with his handbag being carried on by the prison officers, should come to court from the remand prison, wearing smartly dressed like others, would come with those prison garb and for those change, put on new clothes. In your own view, do you think that justice is being served in a partial and proportional manner?
It's a very long question. Sure, Honorable Minister, thank you, Polisani. Aru?
Minister, the government has for years been saying that certain individuals are with Western embassies. What actual proof does the government have?
The United Nations High Commission for Human Rights says it is concerned that the Zimbabwean government may be using the COVID-19 pandemic as a pretext to clamp down on freedom of expression and freedom of peaceful assembly and association. What do you have to say on this?
From what you are saying, from what I'm getting, Honorable Minister, Hopewell Chin'ono and Jacob Ngarivume have been arrested for calling for protests against a sitting government. Right from what I would know, so my question now is, a lot of people have been tweeting and retweeting what they say, and they've also been sharing the same views. What are we going to be seeing? Are we going to see more and more people being arrested for the same crime which Hopewell and Jacob Ngarivume are being accused of? Or do you have a lot? Thank you.
I think for this round we got our four. Please hold and you will probably be like the next round. Honorable Minister, when you're ready.
Okay, sure. Thank you very much. And I'm glad because most of the questions which are being asked are actually in my speech. I think if there's anything, I'll then go back and read again because like what Tolisani is asking is about whether there's treatment of it was it that do I think that there's justice being served? I would like to say the judiciary, the police of this country work according to the constitution, and how they treat their suspects is something which is according to the book. And I would have no reason to think that they do things otherwise. And in this particular case, Chin'ono has been, and the other question came from Haru. I think I want to tie it together with just for those who may have missed it. They are actually, again, and I insist, Hopewell Chin'ono was not taken because he exposed corruption. No. And I want to repeat that. He was lawfully arrested by the Zimbabwe Republic Police. And this is, as you said, somebody said, you are talking about this when it's still in, yes, that's why I cannot go into the details because it's prejudicial. I'm actually talking about the reasons why Hopewell Chin'ono and Ngarivume were arrested. For those who may want to understand, they contravened Section 187, 1A, is read with Section 37, 1A, I of the Criminal Law Codification and Reform Act, Chapter 9.23. And I just want that very, very clear that those are the charges. As to to Haru, I think again it is very clear that there was interference. You talk about how is it that there has been this talk that there are individuals working with Western embassies. What proof does government have? And I think I gave that information. Very, very clear. When I talked about the role of foreign powers in this plot to investigate an illegal regime change in Zimbabwe, and I really indicated the events which happened, especially when we are talking about the arrest of Hopewell Chin'ono. And I want to repeat that there is a lot more evidence, but this is what I gave you, that within minutes of the arrival of the police at Mr. Chin'ono's home, the US Embassy was already all over this issue, tweeting and trying to bring pressure on to bear on the Zimbabwean government so it would not enforce the law of the land. I think I spoke to that. And then privilege, the United Nations for Human Rights. I think I spoke again to that. COVID-19 is real. I even gave an example in the United States where they've actually canceled very important meetings. This is COVID-19. It kills. It's about life and death. We need to save the lives of these people of this country. So to say that they are clamping down the rights for association, I don't think that's the right thing. It's actually coming from the detractors who actually don't care about the lives of the people of this country. And that is sad. And then Leopold, the police are doing their investigations. At this point, they have evidence to what Chin'ono and Garivume are doing. And I cannot comment whether there will be more arrests or if they have finished the arresting. This is work in progress. I thank you. Unless there's a burning one.
Okay, last round, burning questions, something which hasn't been asked before. We want to try different media houses. I see Voice of America, Mangunda. Please.
Ati iye Hopewell achitaura nemunhu tingati muchipangamazana mutungamiri wenyika wacheva anoti akaramba basa raakapuwa nehurumende yeZimbabwe. Saka kusiyiwa kwaanoita kune veruzhinji zvinoita sekuti ari kushungurudzirwa izvo. Saka minista mungatiudzai kuti makambomba basa here uye zvikonzero zvaakarambira basa rezvi kana makamba.
Inga panguva inoiyi yekushayikwa kwamabasa woramba basa wotoshungurudza kuti wariramba.
Is that
Uchikona kupiwa umwe
zvingaiti here?
pakaita bandimubvunzawo minista bataini makadaro minista. Yes.
John Carson, when we were sort of pleading to the international community to leave Zimbabwe alone because the COVID-19 effects are also the same to the entire world, then you want Zimbabwe to fight the COVID-19 successfully like what other countries are doing. But as you say, this is a good statement that you say every country in the world is affected. Isn't it strange that Zimbabwe seems to be the only country that is also taking COVID-19 as a way of imposing a curfew?
They can become violent. But do you think you are doing the best to make sure that people stay in their homes, they are calm? A hungry man is an angry man, Minister.
Okay.
Okay,
I
thank
think
you,
that's it.
Anna.
Another?
1, 2, 3. Different media house. And last question, actually.
Thank you very much. Tende Guamombe from Spotlight Online News Africa. Chin'ono's bail ruling was yesterday, and on the same day, most people employed in the formal sector struggled to enter the CBD, as the security sector denied their entry, and this is despite the directive by the president allowing formal businesses to remain operational during the current lockdown period. And also during the same day, we had most mobile networks were not functional throughout the whole day. Honorable Minister, would you like to comment on the nature of the Wednesdays there? Thank you.
Thank you. That was a
That's
final
the last
question.
one, yeah. Okay, thank you.
I apologize because we really have to wrap this up.
Yeah.
And Honorable Minister is now going to speak to the
Thank
four
you.
persons.
Thank you very much, Manguja. Ndoda kutenda zvikuru kuti wataura nyaya dzekuti izvo Hopewell achitaura na Hopewell achitaura nemumwe waitaura naye painterview. Zimbabwe, the Second Republic, when President Mnangagwa got into power in 2018, his
Coast. We really have to wrap this up.
Yeah.
And Honorable Minister is now going to speak to the
thank
four
you.
persons.
Thank you very much, Mangudi. Ndoda kutenda shukuru for interview. Zimbabwe, the Second Republic, when President